It's me, guy. Rely on yourself in no way. Believe.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a nice night, good sleep, get rested. Um, Today should be an interesting one. We're tackling a few topics. I'm sorry the light's so dark in here, and I think it's because of the camera. So if I put my hand in front of it, it should brighten up, but I don't know. So we'll see. I can't nail the light right some days, and some days it's perfect. So I apologize if it seems a little dark in here. Not much I can do about it. Tried. We're going to be talking about Ezekiel and the dry bones. And before we get moving on it, um, I am not addressing it from the perspective of Israel at all. Don't look for that portion of it. I'm not addressing it from that aspect in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So please, whoever's thinking that might be as not going there. Secondly, um, for those who were on too strong last night, um, I want to again for the 150 millionth time classify and clarify something here. I do not care, and I use that specifically, and I mean those three words. If truth being spoken hurts you, I don't care. I don't care if it makes you mad. I don't care about how you feel I should deliver it. I don't care. Um, if you want to have the things I say delivered a different way, go find somebody else that delivers it a different way. But do not come here assuming that you can tell me how to deliver something. You don't have that power or right or say. I am not, and I've said this before, not everybody's cup of tea. To some, it may be poison in their minds. That's fine. But understand and please be assured of this. What I say, I have ran by the author himself, and I do not care how you take it. Your feelings have no sway on how I say something. Your emotional baggage has zero say over how I say something. Your inability to reason as an adult has zero say over what I say. Your lack is not my lack. That's your lack. And you need to rectify that. Not me for you. It really is that simple. So going forward, if I address somebody in the chat being an idiot, I don't want to be hearing you could address them nicely or just don't address them. One, I can address them if I feel, and two, I can insult them if I feel like it as well. Especially if they're coming sideways about one, the truth, and two, the Bible. I'm just not going to tolerate it. Especially if I give you the option to answer a question and you come back with nonsense, then just be expected to be met with the same. Okay. I don't have time, energy, or patience to deal with blasphemy and stupidity. Those are the two things I won't tolerate. I just want to make sure people understand where I'm coming from. I don't want any misunderstandings. So when I become myself, don't say, why would you? You already know why. Okay. Okay. Good. Got the formalities out the way. Let's talk about Ezekiel. Ezekiel's a different guy. Um, I really, 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 really like Ezekiel. The imagery in Ezekiel is one of my favorite things. I think if you were to ever be an artist and try to paint Ezekiel's visions and the things that happen in Ezekiel, your your pictures are going to turn out quite interesting, quite interesting, to the point where it would almost be scary, very scary. But the advantage is that it will also give you a very neat insight into the realm of heaven that you won't get in many other books. You simply don't get it. There are books that talk about love, there are books that talk about the history of Israel, but there are very few that speak about the ways of God the way Ezekiel does and the things of heaven the way Ezekiel does. Case in point, Ezekiel 37. So we'll read this all the way through first, and then I'll get into my direction that I'm going with it. The hand of the Lord came upon me and brought me out in the spirit of the Lord and set me down in the midst of a valley, and it was full of bones. Then he caused me to pass by them all around, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, and indeed they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? So I answered, O Lord God, you know. Again he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord God to these bones, Surely I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. I will put sinews on you and bring flesh upon you, cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live. Then you shall know that I am the Lord. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and suddenly a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. Indeed, as I looked, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them over, but there was no breath in them. Also, he said to me, Prophesy to the breath. Prophesy, Son of Man, and say to the breath, Thus says the Lord God, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe in the slain, that they might live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up on their feet, an exceedingly great army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They indeed say, Our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we ourselves are cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them, Thus says the Lord God, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come out from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am the Lord. When I've opened up your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, I will put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall place in you your own land, and you shall know that I, the Lord, have spoken it and performed it, says the Lord. Okay, pretty straightforward. Ezekiel gets up, transported in the spirit to a location in a valley full of dead bones, overly dry. They've been dead a long time. The two things I want to harp on in this passage have to do with Ezekiel and God, not Israel. Ezekiel and God. So we'll tackle Ezekiel first. Ezekiel, while being spoken to by God, shows one very important trait that I'm afraid many of us lack. And that trait is not questioning his command. He didn't for a second question God's command, not a single time. Imagine you are transported to a valley. Obvious dead bodies lay, hundreds of bones, myriads of them just laying there, crusty, dry, incapable of anything to do with life. And God tells you, talk to them, and this is what will happen. But first, he asks him, you think these can live? Ezekiel's answer is amazing. Ezekiel's answer is absolutely amazing. He says, can these bones live? And he says, oh Lord, you know. He didn't try to tell God, well, judging from what I know about the human body, I don't see it being capable and possible, but maybe you can do something. I don't know. Uh, Not that never came out of Ezekiel. See, what Ezekiel knew about God was this: if God wills it, it will occur. If God doesn't will it, it will not occur. And he says, only you know. And if he knows that God knows, from that point on, anything, anything God tells him to do, he'll be ready to do. And it bore out. Now, like I said, imagine that you step into this location, bones everywhere, and God tells you, talk to them and tell them they're going to have bones and sinew and everything else is going to come together and I'll refresh everything and it's going to become human. Go ahead and do that. Today's Christian would be like, that's not even possible, man. Or like, why though? What do these bones have in store for them? What are they going to be doing? Question after question after question. Or better yet, do I need to have a certain outfit on? Do I need to do something else as well? Do I wave my hand? Do I need to speak it in tongues? Bro, I just said speak to the bones. Just prophesy to the bones. This is not difficult. Just prophesy to the bones. Yeah, but for what purpose though? And am I going to get any credit for any of this? Can I tell people that I was the one you picked? Today's believer Christian is rarely about doing just what he said and nothing more. That's why we can't ever take him at his word. When he says something, we have to add our own interpretation of it. And not just our interpretation, we have to add our own idea as to what he means. Case in point, like we were talking about last night, do not sin. You're dead to sin. It's right there. And instead of taking Ezekiel's approach and says, you know, we have to say, not fully, because you know what? I also still have blah, 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 blah to deal with. And so those are things I will struggle with. All I told you was that this is the case. I didn't add anything else to it, did I? No. Did I say anything about struggling? No. Why are you putting that in there? Well, because I know. No, 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 no. Hold on, hold on. Am I God? And you look at him and say, yeah, but no. Am I God? Yeah. Why are you questioning something I've told you is true because I've made it true? It's not true because you've made it true. It's true because I've made it true. The same way when he told Ezekiel, these bones will, if you prophesy, there was no doubt in Ezekiel's mind that the bones would do exactly what God said the bones would do. We have a tendency to not want to listen to him at all. We take partial things out of it and we want to apply our human trait to it. There was nothing human, earthly, physically possible about making dry bones come to life. It's not possible. But God. I know he later equated it to I'm going to bring Israel back. But the vision that God gave Ezekiel about the bones was to prove to Ezekiel and to Israel that the impossible is not impossible. And because it was impossible, it took an extra measure of Ezekiel's faith to not question God. But it really didn't take an extra measure because he knew that when God said something was going to happen, there was no doubt that it was going to happen. And it didn't matter how it happened, it will happen. In other words, whatever he says is true. You don't get to decide how God does something, he does it. But you also don't move without his say so. You don't assume, on the other hand, that this is what I think God wants. And then when it doesn't happen, you all automatically put it on, oh, God didn't want it to happen. Or God hasn't moved. Or why is it taking you so long, God? We don't want to wait for the voice of God to tell us to do stuff because we never consult with him. We never consult with him. We don't. And so if you never consult with him, how are you going to know what he wants? And not only what he wants, how he wants it done. Ezekiel was constantly in the presence of God, constantly. And he made it a habit never to question God. Prophesy, done. Call the winds. Now you're telling me to call winds. Prophesy to the winds, God? Like, really? Winds? Didn't say that. How am I supposed to prophesy to what is none of that? Do you imagine the kind of trust you have to have? Okay, you have to trust him enough to say what he said will happen and that he will provide the words for me to say when it's time. I don't have to worry about what to say, how to say it. It will be provided. That's a whole different level of trust. And it's a whole different level of knowing. Many aren't there, but also many don't want to get there. Many avoid it. And I know why people avoid it. Many people avoid that level of trust with God because that's a level of control they just don't have anymore. We don't like not having that control. We want that control. We want to say we played a part. We want to say that was on me too. He not only asked me, but he allowed me to do it. That's what we want. But that is not what he's asking you. It's not about you. Which brings us to the other question and the other topic of God in this equation. God tests our listening. He knew what he was going to do with Israel. He took Ezekiel into a vision of an impossible, and I mean impossible situation. Think about it this way. You're a man, you understand physics and science, at least to a minimum degree that people die and people live. And you're living and you know for a fact that dry bones don't just pop up and become populated. Okay. And then God comes to you in a vision and says, just that. It's true. The crazy part about all of this is that for God, it was just another day at the office. It's just another day. But he's coming to Ezekiel to test Ezekiel. I'm putting something super impossible in front of you. You know for a fact this can't happen, right? It can't happen. It's not physically possible. Impossible. Can't happen. Now, remember this too. The same God that said that to Ezekiel is the same God we serve today. Same God. Our human side would say, but that's impossible, God. Like, how? Ezekiel didn't do that. God said something. Speak to the bones. God will sometimes present us with what we think is impossible, simply to see us believe. And not believe because of result, believe because of the person that said it was going to get done. Not belief after you see it, belief before you even see it because God is the one that said it. Now, this is a level that most people, atheists included, have a very difficult time getting to because they're not past the very first thing about the Christian faith, and that is that God exists. You can't know something about something that doesn't exist in your mind. They would sooner believe in aliens than they would God. Why? The possibility of aliens is more plausible to them because they can control the situation. You can't control God. And without control, you don't have the kind of power you want to have. You don't have the say. And without the say, you feel as though what's happening to you is forced upon you. But if you have a say over something, you feel empowered. What you don't realize is that you are now putting yourself, I'm sorry to say this, you are, well, but not really, you're putting yourself in God's position. You may not think that you're God, but that's in your world who you are. That's what you're doing. Where God sees a massive amount of possibility, sometimes we'll see impossibility. And if we know God knows stuff we don't know, why is it so difficult to trust Him when He says, I know something? I understand fully how hard it is to trust God. Trust me, I know how hard it is to trust God. But I also know how easy it is to trust God. Sounds stupid, but it's true. I know how difficult it can be to trust God, but I also know how easy it is to trust God. I've had events in my life where there was zero way something was going to happen. And when I say zero, I mean zero. No way. A particular situation was insurmountable by anything I could do, period. And it gets solved. The only way something impossible can be possible is with God. Period. I'll give a small example, a small one. And while when I give you this example, some may think, well, that's kind of small. That's why would you consider that a big thing? I've always had a worry issue. Always worried. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen then? What's going to happen? What? Always would keep me up at night, kind of. And one of my biggest concerns was always money. How we're going to pay for that bill? How we're going to pay for that bill? How we're going to. And then one day, here I am sitting on the edge of my bed, and some of the biggest bills are due, and there is nothing in the account. When I say nothing, I mean nothing in the bank. And the bills that are due are a deciding factor on a place to live and the ability to keep your kids fed. That kind of bill. He had been working on me for a long time to get me to trust that he has my back. But this one day it was just too much. And I said, ain't no way this is going to get done. I quit. There's no way I can figure this out. I'm done. And I literally was just done exhausting options, done trying to figure it out. I quit and I said out loud, you have to figure this out because I don't know what to do. And I'm done trying. No more than an hour. I get a phone call from a friend of mine and just to talk. And he's asked, how are things? It's like, man, I ain't gonna go into detail, just really stressing right now. And he said that the reason he called was because he felt like there was something that he needed to do to help me out. That's all he got the inclination to is to call and see what I needed. I didn't tell him what I needed. Didn't. All I said to him was, man, stuff is just really stressing right now, and I'm trying to figure out how to rectify some ends. He says, well, it's odd that you say that because I've been given blah, blah, blah extra, and I think you should have it. It was enough. And when I say enough, like enough, no extra, no under, to pay the two things that I needed paid. Not an abundance, enough. Why was it enough? Why was it not more? I could have easily gone and said, I mean, I'm glad you paid that and that happened out, if that's even you, but there are other things I also need. Why didn't you? I could have easily gone that route. Easily, because I have been down that route before. But just enough solidified who he was, solved the need I had, but also did one more very important thing that I had not thought about before that day. That one thing was that he is enough, and that he is never wrong with what he does. The two things that were weighing on my soul were the two things he took care of. Enough for me to recognize that that was him to the exact penny, and enough for me to understand that he cared enough to take care of the things that had to be taken care of. Another small example. I'm not one for pushing tithing, so don't get me. And I'm not one for all this giving. Okay, so just understand that first. I had just recently gotten paid for something, and it was like ridiculously more than I thought I was going to get. I was thought I was getting one amount, and I got double the amount. It happened on a Sunday morning, and the first thing I did was I have to give from this. That's what I decided to do. So I gave, and you can call it lawful, whatever, my 10% of the money that I got. And I gave it for this reason. I felt immensely blessed by God with that amount. And the only person I could think of to give back something to was him, in whatever way it was, through the church, a poor person, whatever. But I gave it back. I get to now, I did this via a web app, and I give it. And I drive from home to the building. I get to the building. 5 months before this event, I did a job for a friend of mine. I helped him with some painting and some house cleaning stuff that he wanted help with. And, I did it, put in about a half a day, almost a day worth of work, and left. Didn't think about it. I did not think about it. 5 or so months prior, I give a certain amount that Sunday, a very specific amount. Nobody knew I gave this amount. That was between God and me. I want to make that clear. The amount I gave was between God and me. I get to the building, and this brother walks up to me same one I helped 5 months ago. And he says, "Hey, man, look, I've been meaning to try and, but I finally got something. I finally got enough money to pay you for your time when you helped." And I was trying my best to remember when it was. And he reminded me of what I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So here I'm sitting down thinking I'm getting a little, such a little bit of change. He hands me some cash, and it is the exact amount I had given that morning out of the blessing he had given me double from. Now, I'm not saying that as a braggadocious thing, because what I saw that as a I see you. I see you. I not only see you, I will reward your diligence in doing something that came from your heart, not out of obligation, not out because it came from your heart. That was a trust thing. Ezekiel had the exact same heart. So when people try to tell you that God don't exist, they'll chalk that particular event up to chance. My question then is, what are the odds? What are the odds? In your world of man doing it and man and no God, what are the odds of that happening? And I will tell you, slim to none. There are lotto chances higher than that. There are mega millions lotto chances higher than that. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Yeah, I was. I'm always in financial difficulty when I give because it's not about the financial difficulty. That should never that should never if your idea of giving is giving out of what you have, difficulty of what you're paying should never affect that, like at all. If you've decided that tithing is something you do, don't ever tell me that, oh, I can't this month, because it either is or it isn't something that you do. Widow and her mite. Just saying that either is or it isn't something you do. But that solidified for me God's faithfulness, not mine, God's. It did not solidify for me that, oh, the more I give that an amount, I'll get that back. That's not the first thing that crossed my mind. It's not, oh, ooh, that's kind of cool. Maybe the next time I'm going to give 15 times the amount, and I'll get back 15 times the amount, and I'll be even better off. I didn't, I was too broken over that event to think the next time I'm going to do the same thing and hope for the same result. It wasn't about the money that I got. It was about the fact that God saw something, rewarded it, and rewarded it right away. But that happened over a matter of me trusting Him, period. And me finally letting go of my distrust. Ezekiel didn't have a qualm about dead bones coming to life. And it was not a problem for God to bring dead things to life. Ezekiel knew that. The issue isn't with God being able to do stuff. The issue is us being a believer enough to know that He will. 100% of the problems in the church today is not because of God, it's because of people. Okay, so let me ask you a question, Anthony. What do you believe God is going to do. It's a real. What do you believe in this situation God is going to do? I just want to know what you think He's going to do. I would like to hear your answer because I think the human tendency, our first issue is to fear. It's never, no, oh well, yeah, he'll figure something out. It's never that. I'm reading your statement, right? And it's um it's interesting. Here's why it's interesting to me. You say that you gave your last 20 in church and now your water got turned off. I, the reason I find it weird is because of what got turned off. Not the fact that you paid your last 20, but what got turned off. Do you realize what got turned off? I'll wait for you to realize what got turned off and how cool what's going to happen next is. That I want you to just think about what got turned off. Your water got turned off, right? Your water. You know, there was an event with Moses, and God was going to bring forth water out of a rock. Water from a rock. But Moses, out of his frustration, smacked the rock instead of speaking to the rock to get the water. Now, I say that because water is a very vital thing, very vital. And on numerous occasions, he's called himself that living water. I want you to concentrate for just a second, Anthony, if you will, on the fact that we're talking about dry bones. You did what you were planning to do, and your water got disconnected. Your water got disconnected. I'm just going to ask you to be mindful and remind yourself who your water is. That's who your water is. He talks to people in such direct ways sometimes that we just don't. It's too direct. It's too direct. It's too direct. I don't think the blessing that you're, gonna get is gonna be short by any stretch of the imagination, but I want you to just concentrate on that thought for a minute and just kind of focus on that for, you know, he just brought that to me, and your statement just kind of jumped out, and that was the first thing he popped in my head with, and I just wanted to relay that to you. Just remember who your water is. Okay? Because God is not slack concerning his promises, and he is all the things that we might need in life, both material and spiritual. We just sometimes don't. We don't see it. We don't understand half the things happening on earth. But also, it said in the Bible that things would happen that we didn't understand and we won't understand. But I don't need to understand, which is why I've kept telling you, I don't need to understand everything going on. I just need to understand who's in control of everything going on. I don't need to understand everything that's going on. I just need to understand who's in charge of everything going on. I don't need to know how the bones are going to come together. I just know who's going to put them together. I don't know how sinew and air is going to get. I don't know how, but I know who is going to do it. Ezekiel didn't know how bones that are that dry were going to come to life. He just knew God said, say it gonna happen, and it'll happen. If you're in a place where you don't know what's going to happen, trust the one that does know and live in that trust. The worst possible scenario is that you grow in trust. The worst possible thing that could happen with you trusting him without an end in sight is that your trust grows. And even if your water does not get turned on, and even if you starve, and even if you have no clothes, even if that's the case, you still have God. You still have God. The disciples and apostles were some of the most abused people, boiled in oil, beaten, stripped of clothes, constantly in jail. None of that, though, affected their trust in God. Exiled after being boiled. Imagine this: you are speaking for God, you get boiled in oil, then exiled. Today, the marker of God and his blessing is abundance. Back then, the marker of trust in God was through trial. Thank you, Creole. And thank you, Eddie. Do you understand this? Today, the mark of God being in your life is wealth and abundance and blessings. When in the past, the mark that you actually had God in your life was earthly hardship and still trusting the person. We get told we got to be happy. He wants us happy. He wants us blessed. He wants you rich. He wants you this. He wants you that. Always in the positive. You get boiled in oil, God must have forsaken you. You go broke, God must have forsaken you. Claim your blessing. Claim that blessing. Speak it and it'll become true. In the name of God, speak it. Manifest that blessing. Manifest health and wealth. Manifest it all. Because the only apparent mark of God blessing you is wealth and health and all that stuff, the positives. I would dare venture to say that there is more faith built in trials like Daniel went through, that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went through, that Job went through, than any super spiritual money making pastor will ever discover. I would much rather have my faith built up by trial than benefit. It's no different than the gym. I don't want to have injections for my muscles. I want to know that the hard work I did at the gym pays off. Because I could inject synthol all day long and look like I did the hard work and not be able to lift a coin off the ground. Or I can look like I'm barely going to the gym and be able to lift a truck, but I have been working. Thank you, Don. The pain I'm feeling in my muscles tearing and the tiredness all pays off. I would much rather suffer if it means having a true taste of who he is than to have all the blessings on earth as my proof that he exists. He's enough. He's blessing enough. Having him save me is blessing enough. Having him in my life is blessing enough. I need nothing past that. Everything else past that is bonus. Everything past that is a bonus. Oh, really? Show me where that's the case. Show me where that is the case. I really want to tell you, show me where God says, I don't want you broke. Just show me where he says that. Where does he say, I don't want you broke? In fact, show me where he wants you wealthy. I just want proof from his word of that statement. That's all I'm asking for. Not coming at you sideways. I just want to know where it says that. You're not answering my question. You said he doesn't want us broke. I ask you to show me where it says that. Then you tell me he wants us to prosper. Show me that too. Show me where he says he doesn't want us broke and he wants us to prosper. Show me those two things. It is, if you say it, then you must have seen it somewhere, not just heard it. You must have read it somewhere in his word for it to be true. I just want you to explain to me where it is. That's all. And if you can give me the location, I will believe your point of view. I just want to see where it's at. Can you show me? I have no doubt that he will bless us with earthly stuff. I'm sure there are tons of times he does that. But that's not my goal in life. And that's not my measure of who he is. The measure of who he is not in how much stuff I have. The measure of who he is how much my trust in him increases. So if you can, Connie, please give me a rundown of what you know. Um, I'd greatly appreciate it. Because if I am wrong, I don't want to be wrong. I want to be right. Um, so please tell me. Jeremiah 29:11. Let's go there. Let's go there. Jeremiah 29:11. Okay. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I'll go from 10. For thus said the Lord, after 70 years are completed at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word toward you and cause you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace, not of evil, to give you future and a hope. I don't see prosperity there. And I also don't see money or being broke in that statement. So again, you said he doesn't want us broke and he wants us to prosper. It sounds like you're talking about monetarily. I would like to see proof that that's what he means by prosper or anything to do with the benefits. Show me where it said about money being the case. And being broke is something he doesn't want us to do. So let's see. Deuteronomy 8:18. Let's listen to that one. Let's see what that says. 8:18. So let's go from 15. Nope. Well, let's see here. That's the best place to go from. Let's go from 11. Beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, his judgments, his statutes, which I command you today. Remember, though, this is all old law. Lest when you have eaten and are full and have built beautiful houses and dwell in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold are multiplied, and all you have is multiplied, when your heart is lifted up and you forget the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness, in which fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty land where there was no water, who brought water for you out of the filthy rock, the flinty rock, and who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, that he might humble you and that he might test you to do good in the end. Then you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gained me this wealth. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. Then it shall be, if you by any means forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day that you shall surely perish. Now, again, is there wealth the goal of that passage? Is his intent to give them silver and land and nothing else? Is that what that passage is saying? It is not. It is directly talking to them about forgetting him. In the midst of all the stuff they have, forgetting him. That is the most vital thing that he has harped on. He blessed Abraham with wealth. Why? Did he bless Abraham with wealth to prove himself? Or did he bless Abraham with wealth because Abraham saw that God was all he needed? You see, we want to think God is the bank. We serve him because we want. We serve him because he will give. No, we serve him because he's God. If you get wealth, you get wealth. If you don't get wealth, you don't get wealth. You know why? Because that's not the goal of serving him. The blessing of God is not in what you accumulate. The blessing of God is knowing him, which is why poor and rich alike can follow God and have the exact same blessing at hand and have the exact same measure of faith, because it's not based on what you get from him. It's based on knowing him. Rich or poor, that's not prospering. Prospering is in the knowledge of God. The real wealth is in knowing God. Icing and cake is the extra stuff. I would much rather be broke and know God personally than even take the chance of being wealthy and forgetting who gave that to me. Because as you can see, wealth corrupts. Look at the preachers today. Money making machines, zero to do with God. Does God bless people? I'm sure he allows them to have that blessing. That is not his goal. His goal is not monetary. His goal is not you having all the wealth in the world and being not broke. I'll tell you this one. I've learned to trust God more being broke than I have being rich. I've had some money in my time, not filthy rich, but I've had a job that paid really good. And I found myself trusting him less during that time than I did when I had nothing, because I had to trust him. And what that built for me is that the wealth I thought I was looking for was completely off kilter. I needed him to be my wealth. I am now by no means stretch of the imagination well off, but I have never been more content. Like I have never been more content to have zero in the account at the end of a month. I'm not even kidding you. Whether he blesses me tomorrow with $1 billion or I go into the red by $1 billion tomorrow, it doesn't matter to me. I have the one thing that I need, which is God. The benefit is not in the money. He never told me he wants me rich. He never told me he wants me poor, because that's never been his goal. Money and my life has never been the goal. My spiritual benefit is, and he is that benefit. To those that want to think that the result of you having money or not money is reflecting the blessing or the non blessing, feel free to think of it that way. That's up to you. My God is able to do the impossible. And my whole journey thus far has been seeing him do the impossible. And if seeing more of the impossible means staying in this space, I'm staying in this space. I'm good. This space is good. Right here is good. To keep seeing the impossible happen, I'm good. I'm really good with that. Let it go. Keep coming with the impossible. But if your idea of God blessing is money, okay. Okay. But in neither one of the verses that you guys have given me shows me that he wants us to be rich. Not one of them yet. So At least from my end, the Bible doesn't say that that's the goal. Okay. You have not proven your point to me on that one. You simply haven't. That's not something that you can sell me on at all. Um, I think I missed one more, but I'm pretty sure it does not say he wants you rich. You know, again, I'd much rather be broke. I've seen people in third world countries that have faith more than countries of people because they know what it's like to not depend on themselves. They know what it's like to not have to depend on themselves. And that is the only rich that matters. That's the only rich that matters. That's the only rich that matters. Um, Tonight on Too Strong, we'll be talking about Mr. P. Diddy. We also have um, the Savage Patriots at 4:30 Eastern today, and then we have the Mix tonight. So it's a full day of shows. Um, we'll be premiering the Savage Patriots on Fair Media today. We're finally on Fair Media, so please, if you are on Fair Media, tune in. Um, that's our political outlet. Oh, I here's my prediction. I don't foresee it happening, and it's not a bad thing. I don't foresee. It's not that he doesn't want to do that. Um, but he's very much a "this is who I am now" person, and I fully understand that. I saw the email. I just have not read it yet. So I'll ask him, but I'm not guaranteeing anything. So the person I had slotted for the journey, they didn't reply to me as to what time works yet. So that's not going to happen this week. It may happen next week once I get a reply. Um, so tomorrow we will be um, talking about him eating with tax collectors, and then Holy Spirit discussion is on Friday. Um, I'll put some ticker down here so you can see. That's two ways that you can do that, Gloria. In email or in my inbox. I don't know which direction you're talking about, Creole. Anyway, those are the two options on the bottom here. Um, yeah, I just have not. Today's my day for. I won't be able probably to get to any of that until the weekend. Okay, and yes, Monica, I did get the email. I can't get to a whole lot this week, especially today. Today is a full, and I mean full day. If you guys send me any emails today and expect a reply today, I can tell you it probably won't come back to you today. This wouldn't be. Wednesdays are the roughest day for me because I have four shows, sometimes five in a day. Okay, so it's a four-show day today, and it's a full day, so I won't have time to do that. Reply to much. Okay, so yeah, I did get the pictures. So we'll talk tomorrow. morning about the tax collector thing. Um, and because I think I had a discussion with somebody on, I think it was on TikTok, um, in regards to Maverick City going to the Grammys, and people saying that you shouldn't dog them because they were trying to go there and minister. And the whole reasoning between the tax collector and that scenario is that Jesus didn't go and boost up the tax collector's poor living. He went there with the idea of, you know, introducing them to himself, whereas these other people went there to help worship Satan. You went there under the pretense of God to worship Satan. And there's a massive difference. You don't minister to people while worshiping with the people that you say are, it doesn't work that way. So we're going to talk more in detail about that. And what's our role when it comes to hanging out with sinners? We'll go into all of that tomorrow. So don't miss that. And I'll see you guys hopefully on the Savage Patriots. Let me grab the YouTube link real quick so you can get there and subscribe if you haven't yet. Let me grab that real quick. And I'll put that in the chat here. Today it'll just be me and Michael because Jay Lee is working. And we're probably going to be doing 2 shows today and tomorrow. So look out for that. There's the link to the channel, the Savage Patriots, at 4:30 today, 4:30 Eastern. 4:30 Eastern. Okay, so tune in for that. We'll be talking today about the balloons and all that stuff and the train derailment in Ohio. So we'll be talking about the possible plans for them to dump aliens in our laps and then the train derailment. So tune in. Should be good. Thank you guys for all that your words, your input, your conversation, all of it. What times are the straight talk shows today? This is the only one today. Every day it's at noon Eastern. Straight talk will always be at noon Eastern every day, Monday through Friday. Well, if it's part of the research I have to do, I'll take a gander at it. We'll catch you guys later today. Y'all have a grand rest of the day. Remember, wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely